to bring by anchor Leland Vittert to the program here to bring you in, Leland, to talk about what we just heard from Robert Sherman and the developments that have happened. Your take.
This is going to continue now for a while, and you're going to see what is an air war, essentially, of the Israeli and the U.S. Fighter planes, and we would expect U.S. bombers going into Iran, and then the Iranians firing back. The point that you made, I think, that the Saudis now have said that Iran has turned the entire Gulf region into an enemy is the key here. In sort of an extraordinary moment in a sea change in the Middle East. What we're witnessing right now is very different than what happened in the 12-day war that Robert was talking about in June, that the Israelis started their campaign in Iran, and then the U.S. came in with Midnight Hammer, and it was one hammer blow. Take apart what President Trump said. He said it was sustained and ongoing military operations. This is not one and done. He said that it was about removing an immediate threat. This goes far beyond Iran's nuclear program. He talked about the Iranian people standing up for freedom. That is an invitation for the Iranians to go back into the streets. Remember, President Trump said that help was on the way to the Iranian protesters who wanted to overthrow the regime. This is that help. And it is also an acknowledgement by President Trump that for the past 50 years, the most persistent and deadly threat to the United States has been the Iranian regime. They have killed more Americans, and they have fomented more violence against America. They are the proxy of Russia and China to bring unrest, not only to the Middle East, but around the world with their terrorist proxies. And this is the beginning of a military campaign to bring about regime change, if not in name, in everything but name.
You know, Robert Sherman is standing by. He did have to duck out of the shot. We saw that here on our screens just a moment ago. Leland, I've been a colleague of yours for many, many years. I know that you have tremendous experience reporting in this region as we watch you on your program nightly and with your war notes. Talk to us about the job at hand right now for Robert and for what we are about to see unfold in these next few days and the reaction from lawmakers that we're expecting to hear throughout the day. Talk us through the next kind of several hours and through the weekend.
Well, the enemy has a lot to say about that, Laura, in terms of how the Iranians react, because the Iranians have chemical weapons. They have biological weapons, conceivably. They certainly have the ability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. That's why President Trump talked about taking out the Iranian Navy, and we've seen the hits along the southern coast of Iran, which would drastically change oil prices around the world if the Iranians were to say to sink an oil tanker. The Iranian response of sending missiles at U.S. bases in other Middle Eastern countries and Arab countries will go down as one of the great colossal strategic errors in history. Because the Saudis have now talked about opening their airspace to the U.S., potentially to the Israelis, the Bahrainians, the Emiratis. That will totally change. If all of a sudden there's an Arab coalition now taking on Iran and launching strikes against Iran, boy, what a wonderful day that is in the Middle East. And what a change of the Iranians no longer being able to be on the offense of delivering evil, but justice being delivered to them. The U.S. political moves, I think we're sort of largely see line up on partisan lines. It is bewildering to me that anyone can be against action in Iran, that anyone can sort of take the side or give quarter to the Iranians, the Ayatollah, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, again, the single greatest killer of Americans over the past 40 or 50 years. So that, I think, is going to be a rather muted argument. The American people understand what death to America is. They understand what Hezbollah is. They understand what Hamas is. They understand what Iran does. So I'm not that sort of focused on the Washington angle. The military angle to this is going to be in large part of how long the Iranian military holds together. There's now decapitation strikes going on, and I think there's a big question over the past 7 weeks how much work has been done by the CIA and by the Mossad to lay the groundwork for a popular uprising inside of Iran.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.